Hello, I'm Nikki Farler from the Perry County School System, and I'm very pleased and honored to be a 2022 KVEC Innovation Grant recipient. My project for this year is Voices of the Troublesome, an Appalachian Literature Library and Podcast. Hello, like I said before, I'm Nikki Farler, and this is my 13th year of teaching in the Perry County Schools. This is my fourth KVEC Innovation Grant, and I am a learning and behavioral disorders teacher in kindergarten to second grade. I also teach in a resource setting with students with moderate to severe disabilities. But welcome to Robinson Elementary. Robinson is located in Erie, Kentucky on the banks of the Troublesome Creek. Robinson is home to approximately 300 students preschool to 8th grade. Robinson has a unique history and has served the Erie community for 100 years. Therefore, Robinson is the perfect place to explore Appalachian culture and really look at the history of the school and our place in Appalachian culture in our community. Our students have a limited knowledge of the region culture and have very little exposure to books that depict the world in which they live. All too often in our books and the things that we present to our students, we expose them to cultures all around the world, and yet our students have very little respect or knowledge of their own Appalachian culture. This generation has experienced a cycle of opioid abuse that has affected the family structures throughout our community. So we are used to family traditions and stories being handed down generation to generation. And because of our opioid crisis and other things in our region, we have fractured generations and families, and these stories and traditions are being lost. Coupled with that, this generation has a particularly special point of view in the fact that they are being educated and growing up in the world during a pandemic, unlike most people have ever seen. So their Appalachian point of view is completely different from that of their parents or even their teachers. This brings us to our research question. How might we increase the students of Robinson's knowledge of Appalachian culture while also giving them the sense that their stories are being heard and that their points of view are just as valid as important as people from other places and other cultures? Now, our plan of action. Excuse me. After consulting with a local bookstore that focuses on Appalachian culture, and Appalachian literature classroom libraries will be cultivated for each section of Robinson Elementary. So there's K2, there's 3-5, and then there's 6-7-8. In library class, the students will be read books such as When I Was Young in the Mountains, Silver Packages, and The Book Lady. All of these will allow the students to express different parts of their lives and different experiences that they have had and compare them to the book. As we experience and explore these books, we are going to work with our SCLP students to create podcasts with parent permission to describe the journeys that these students have taken in their own Appalachian experiences. Our project timeline. In October, we have ordered our books, podcast equipment, and our crafts all of that has been ordered. And in November, we're going to take some time and actually create our libraries for our classes, and then also the section within our own library. And then in December, we are going to focus on silver packages. And with some of our craft money that was in our budget, we are doing Appalachian Christmas crafts for our community Christmas tree. And if we are allowed to have a Christmas play this year, we're also focusing that on Appalachian culture and a down home Christmas. In January, this is where we introduced When I Was Young in the Mountains. Students 3 through 8 will write their own versions of the book using their experiences and paralleling portions of the book to their own lives, and we will begin to look at stories to be featured in our podcast. The actual podcast will begin recording in February, as well as we're going to do some Christmas stories as well from silver packages, focusing on, we have a plethora of area community knowledge with 2 of our teachers that have taught at Robinson for 40 years. So having those Christmas experiences just from a Robinson Elementary perspective is going to be very neat, and a wonderful way to honor these educators that have shaped the community of Erie for so many years. And then in March, we're going to look at the students will read The Book Lady. This is where I want the students to be able to compare their pandemic experiences. In The Book Lady, just like the popular, more adult book, this depicts when they would ride the horses out to homes and the librarians would deliver books. I would really like the students to see the parallels in that during their quarantine experiences and lockdown experiences during the pandemic, and how we weren't on horses, but we were on buses and cars to come to see them and deliver lunch meals and deliver their school supplies and check on them throughout the pandemic. So really getting those students to really think about the parallels of these situations that they've experienced in this millennium compared to the situations in the book. Now, in our budget, the bulk of our budget was spent on the Appalachian Authors libraries for our school. But in order to do the podcast, we got a podcast bundle and a touchscreen Chromebook. We also used a small bit of our money for craft supplies so that we could do some Appalachian crafts to go along with the Silver Packages book. So the bulk of our budget was spent on books such as When I Was Young in the Mountains, Silver Packages, Jack and the Wonder Beans, The Book Lady, The Salamander Ball. All of these are books that our students don't really have experiences with, and we really want to be able to give that to our students. We are also very blessed to have a local children's author, Nancy Kelly Allen. We added her books to our Appalachian Authors Library, and in a partnership with Perry Promise, she will be coming and seeing our students and discussing writing and being an author and Appalachian writing with our 3, 4, 5 students in the spring, and then also doing some readings with our K2 students in library class. So measuring outcomes. Students taking and passing AR tests with in the Appalachian literature section will be tracked. Currently, baseline data, we had 3 students read Appalachian authors last year. So I'm looking through this project to see that increase. And then participation in our Appalachian cultural events will also be measured and taken into account. If you want to know more about the activities that we're implementing in our school and how we're using these Appalachian books and Appalachian authors, or if you want to hear a podcast, you can email me my contact info is down at the bottom. Again, I would like to thank KVAC for this opportunity for my students to really dive into their Appalachian culture and see the uniqueness of their own points of view. Thanks again, KVAC.